This is the Fearless Finance Podcast with Amy Ross. Amy and the team at Gold Shield Wealth are dedicated to helping adults plan for and manage the hurdles they may face on their journey to retirement. Get more, including contact information in the show notes. Now, Fearless Finance with financial advisor Amy Ross.
My name is Mark Owens. All right, so Amy, I want to get started this weekend with a fascinating article from AARP magazine. And it was simply titled, How Older Americans Embrace the Joys of Living Alone and They Embrace Independence. You work with individuals, with adults who have gone through the great divorce, who are widowed. It's a reality of life. And in this survey, it says 36% of adults over the age of 50 are divorced. 50% of women over 70 are widowed. Do you see this with the families you serve?
Absolutely. Actually, I just got done meeting with someone who is in her early 70s and divorced 3 times just today. So yes, I do see that a lot. Also, a lot of widows. Unfortunately, that's just part of life. Typically, the man dies before the woman does. And, it became very real to me last year when my own father-in-law passed away. And I was there with my mother-in-law to walk her through learning that retirement independence. And it can be very challenging and it can be very intimidating. So I actually really enjoy working with widows and single adults and helping them learn how to go travel for 2. I always say when you were pregnant, you got to eat for 2. Well, I guess if you're a widow in retirement, you get to go travel for 2.
Right.
So, I encourage that.
So what do you find that most people, I guess the shock and awe, if you will, if something were to happen, be it a great divorce, be that a spouse passes away, what is something that most adults aren't prepared for as they get ready to navigate the rest of their life or through retirement as a single?
It's honestly almost everything. It's a shock to think of doing everything as 2 and then you're doing it as 1. Most of the time when you've made your plans, I'm helping a specific widow right now, and we had a long discussion about it. And I said, well, what do you want to do in retirement? And she said, well, everything's changed now. I'm a widow now. Everything that we had planned, it was planned for 2. And now we got to go switch those plans and plan it for 1. And you would think that things would be half price when you're only doing it for 1 person, but that's realistically not the case. You still need a hotel room. It's generally the same amount of money for 1 versus 2. A lot of those things, but it's more so the mental challenge of it versus the financial for the most part. For most people, it's learning how to take that step and be independent and go do things and make those plans independently.
Yeah. I know in my household, my wife, Gretchen, she is the CFO. She handles all of the bills. God bless her. She takes care of all the bills. I handle a lot of the big picture stuff, like a lot of our retirement stuff, our, Roths, our 401k, stuff like that. But she does handle, and God forbid if something were to happen, I would be lost right now. How to get the power bill paid, how to pay the Netflix. Like I wouldn't know where to start. How often do you sit down with somebody and a situation happens and you find that the spouse is like, we don't have any of this written down? I'm shocked. I don't know what to do next.
Do you know what? I find it all the time, and I found it with my own mother-in-law. It was a disaster.
Yeah.
And that's where it really got me to thinking, and I changed my style a lot in working with my couples to point that out and say, listen, you need to, a lot of times it's one or the other. There's generally one person, just like you just said, Mark, there's one person who is the financial mind,
right,
and there's one who does basically the other stuff. But the thing is when you're older and when you're in retirement, whether you want to know about it, you need to know about it, because you might be left holding the bag of having to pay all those bills and things like that. So that's one thing, that a conversation I do have with my couples when I work with them, like, you both need to know what is going on. And if nothing else, at least you need to know who I am to know who to come to when things happen. At least have a resource and someone who can be there for you when things happen, because death comes for all of us eventually.
So what is the first thing that adults should do to get on the same page? Is it creating a what if file or a when file, when or what if something happens? Is it making sure the beneficiaries are updated? What do you think is the first thing that we should do?
Well, the first thing that I say to do is make a who to call when list for your kids. Put it with your documents. I always say, put my business card on there. I always try to get to know my clients' children, their adult children, so that they know who Amy is. But that's a huge benefit. A lot of people think, oh, but I have a file on my computer. That's pointless to a lot of people. A lot of the baby boomer generation, they're not real tech savvy, nor do they want to be.
Yeah.
So trying to get on someone else's desktop and fiddle through different folders of documents is not very effective. You need to sit down together, talk about, okay, who's the cable bill through? Who's the electric? The simple things. Make a good old-fashioned list, a paper list, and put it in your safe or your drawer. That way you don't want your family to be grieving and then also trying to figure out how to not have creditors coming and knocking on their door because you don't know what bill needs to be paid when.
So part of the same AARP survey, it said, who solo adults turn to for help or guidance. And this was a little bit shocking and could be a little bit concerning. It said 57% said they turn to friends. And correct me if I'm wrong, where I think this could be dangerous is because I am turning to my friends for guidance, but their life plan is completely different than my life plan.
Well, that and most of my friends are idiots when it comes to finance. So I don't want them helping me. I mean, they must have better, smarter friends than I do. I mean,
there's some truth behind. You're not
really
wrong.
Do you have name one friend you have, Mark? Well, I mean, you work around a bunch of financial advisors, so you're not the right person.
No, but I'm thinking of
the
like
general population do not have friends that are equipped to help them. They need all the help they can get themselves.
No, I'm thinking about my dad group, all my neighborhood buddies. Yeah, no, I mean, they'd help me move a washing machine, but as far as setting up a 401k, no, not at all.
Let's do some income planning tonight over some beer, and then said no one ever.
And then how come at the end of the night we went through 2 cases and I've turned all of my money over to you? What happened here? You're the worst friend ever.
Now you are the primary beneficiary of everything.
So 18% in this survey, only 18% seeked out professional guidance. They seeked out professional help with their retirement plans. Why do you think that number is so low?
I think a lot of people don't want to pay the money.
Yeah.
For some reason, like we don't want to pay fees. And I cannot wrap my head around that, but whatever. A lot of people are embarrassed. It takes so much vulnerability to sit down with a professional. And a lot of people just don't have it in them to do that, to where they really sit down. Sometimes they don't want to know what they're going to have to say. Kind of like when you avoid going to the doctor. I saw that a lot. People would avoid going and be like, well, I'm perfectly fine. I am perfectly healthy. Yep. Well, maybe not. I mean, just because you haven't been to a doctor in 10 years, in your mind you're healthy, but you could be dying and not know it.
I think you're 100% correct, because what do? When we do feel sick, when we know something's wrong, the first thing we do is we call our doctor. But if we look at our portfolio, we're confused, we know something's not right, we're hesitant to make the phone call to someone like you. Do you find that people come in and they say, look, Amy, I've made some real mistakes in the past and I'm just embarrassed and I don't want to talk about it. I mean, how do you handle those situations?
I do get told that a lot, but you should never be embarrassed. I mean, if you've taken the first step to getting help by sitting down with me, so I admire that. And we can't fix what we don't know. So, and typically it's not as bad as people think it is. Sometimes it is. Yeah. I mean, I did sit down with a 78-year-old a few weeks back that only had $8,000 saved in total for retirement. And that was a conversation that wasn't an easy one to have. But for the most part, people have saved. They have tried to be diligent. It's just really, looking under the hood of what you've done, it can be embarrassing. But a lot of times it's not anywhere near as embarrassing as you think. And I try not to embarrass anyone. Honestly, I try to be just an open book, because truly I've been through divorce myself. I've made stupid decisions. I've cashed in my own 401k. I worked in healthcare. I've done that. So for me, I don't judge you. It's just that I am now blessed with the knowledge and the wisdom to help you make the best out of things from a lot of the past bad decisions I've made myself. So I'm not here to judge you for it. I'm here to help you.
I was sitting there thinking,
at that, call me. Give me a call if you feel embarrassed and you want someone who won't judge you. Call me, 843-585-5223, and we'll sit down and we'll giggle together and we'll figure it all out.
Listen, there will be no beer or wine in that conversation, because there's no telling what could happen by the end of it. So strictly
I can't be getting people drunk to work with me. That is not the look I'm going for.
That's 100% fair right there. As you were talking about how you've had your own situations, you've had your own challenges, Amy, and I think I made this comparison a couple of weeks ago, but it rings true here as well. I've had a lot of oral surgery. I've got a lot of teeth work. These are big, fake teeth, and I love them. They did a good job.
They're nice.
Thank you.
They're really nice teeth.
I paid a ton of money for them. But when I first started the process, I sat down in the dentist chair and the oral surgeon, I was like, listen, I apologize. This is an ugly grill that you're about to work on, and I'm embarrassed by not taking care of it, the work we're going to get done, so I'm sorry. And he didn't miss a beat, and he said, buddy, you think you have a bad set of teeth? These won't even be the worst teeth I see today. And that's like what you
and
do.
that's just it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every portfolio is different. And someone listening this weekend may be thinking, man, I've made some mistakes. I've got an ugly portfolio. But the reality is, Amy, you've seen it all.
I really have. And that's what I say. Most of the time, you think it's way worse than it is. Because, I mean, there's some doozies out there.
Yeah.
There really are.
That number is 843-585-5223. We have a representative standing by right now to get you on the calendar to sit down with Amy Ross and the team at Gold Shield Wealth. One more part of this, and this was kind of interesting. The best part, and it's not all bad, the best part of solo aging, 35% in the survey said the freedom. I get that. Do what you want, when you want. Independence, 16%. 9% said no responsibility for other people. And this one, I'm happily married, proud husband, father, but 7% said personal space. I was like, boy, there are some days I could use some of that.
I kind of get all of that, really. Different times.
Hey, what's your thought on and this is not a financial question. This is a Mark Owens and Amy Ross question. What's your thoughts on like solo vacations? Have you ever taken a solo vacation?
You know what? No, I have been to a movie one time by myself at a movie theater. I like companionship. I love people. So I guess I tell Andrew all the time, I sure hope I die before him because, you know, I don't want to ever have to remarry, but I don't know how I'll do it being alone because I just enjoy companionship. I'm one of those people.
I get that one, but I am with you, but I also am a fan of a solo vacation. Let me explain why. I like to throw the dice. I like to play cards. I save up a little bit. We've talked about this before. I enjoy going to Vegas. I have a very busy life. For me, shutting it down, some people will go to a day spa. Some people go to a winery. For me, it's relaxing to sit at a blackjack table. And I have been to Biloxi. I have been to Vegas by myself for a couple of days just to shut it down. I'm not going out there to do anything nefarious. You know, we can't gamble around here. So if I can go spend a couple of dollars, throwing some dice, playing some cards, and then come home, and ironically, I feel refreshed. And Gretchen, my wife, she's all for it. She's like, go get it out of your system because she has no desire to go to a casino.
And I get that. And that's what retirement, or not even retirement, that's what life should be about. It's what fulfills you.
Yeah.
You know, what makes you happy. And if those couple of days recharges your battery and you come back a better man for it, you know, my husband is a big, he loves to shoot guns. He is a very big, he collects them, and there's some different and he'll go to the gun range and come back happy, a different man, you know. So I encourage that. I'm like, go wherever you need to go to make yourself feel better. If that, you know, to me, I'm more of a go walk on the beach, go sit and look at the water. That cleanses my soul and my mind. But yeah, absolutely. I just, like I said, I do travel sometimes for work. Sure. And so I get a lot of time alone in that sense to where I'm ready to be back home with my husband and my kids because I like companionship.
I get it. Let's talk to those that work 30 to 40 years. And during that time, we're all considered long-term investors. Then we may be retired another 30 years. So the question is, why aren't we considered a long-term investor in retirement? Why does investment philosophy, why does that have to change?
That's a great question. Well, the difference isn't the length of time. It's whether you're adding money or withdrawing money from the accounts. You know, during your working years, you're accumulating assets. You're contributing regularly, buying through good markets and bad markets. And then you also have a paycheck to replace the losses. You know, market downturns can actually help you because you're buying shares at a lower price, dollar cost averaging. But in retirement, the math changes. You're no longer adding to that portfolio. You're taking money out to live on. So if the market drops while you're withdrawing, you may have to sell investments at depressed lower prices. And that creates something called sequence of returns risk. And that can permanently damage your portfolio. So even though the time horizon may still be 20, 30 years, the portfolio's job is changing on you. Instead of just growing, it now has to provide income, stability, protect your principal, and manage volatility so that we can still withdraw the money that we need to live off of and we don't erode into the portfolio too quickly. And so that's why the investment strategy often shifts from pure accumulation to a balance of growth and in income and then risk management. So it's not the length of time that's truly changing. It's just the type of investing that has to occur is different.
How does risk management change in retirement? Do you take a different view of it?
Absolutely. You know, the thing is I always say, you know, you don't want to take money, you know, when you go to Biloxi gambling. Okay, I'm going to throw this back at you, Mark.
Let's go. Come on.
When you go to Biloxi gambling, do you take the part of your paycheck that you need to pay for your daughter's schooling and your wife's, needs, the mortgage payment. No, right? You manage that. You don't want to put that money at risk, right?
Right.
So when you're actively in retirement and you're not earning any more money to replace it, that's where your portfolio needs to be balanced to handle that risk. Different types of investments in there so that if the market is down, well, time, we know we have to have time to come out of it. So that's where I'm a big fan of using different investment vehicles to mitigate the risk.
So as we're talking about risk here on Fearless Finance with Amy Ross, that number is 843-585-5223, goldshieldwealth.com to meet the team and to schedule that consultation. Is there a certain age where you find that, all right, now it's time to pull back on the risk a little bit? I mean, is that an age? Is it 50, 55, 60? Or is that once you're in retirement? Or does it really matter? It all depends on what your portfolio looks like.
That is a loaded question because, for example, I just sat down with someone who has close to $15 million saved. So obviously someone with that kind of money with no mortgage payment can take more risk, right? So if those equities go down, the chances of them needing to touch that money slim.
Right.
Whereas some people may only have $1 million for their entire retirement, which is a completely different conversation. So like I said, I like to get to know where do we have the money? How much do we have? But an average cookie cutter answer is around 5 years before that retirement age. Like when you're getting near it, you want to start reining in some of that risk and start to be more intentional of where you're placing your money, knowing that you're going to need to substitute income for starters. That's the one thing. You want to make sure that you have a plan in place to at least make your mortgage payment, to have your groceries, to pay your insurance premiums. I say the bills that we have to pay, life doesn't continue the same way if we can't pay those bills. We can do without a trip, a vacation, but we can't do without our basic needs being covered. So if you're taking too much risk on, you think about 2008 PTSD, some people lost damn near half their retirements.
Yep.
They should have probably pulled in some risk on that. If you were 64, 65 and you were in a position where you lost that much money, that was poor planning. That was just trying to get sometimes greed can take over and we take on too much risk trying to gain more money, whereas we need to preserve some of it too.
How often do you sit down with somebody and you do the full body scan of their retirement portfolio and you ask them, how much risk are you taking? And they're like, I don't know. How often do people not realize too much?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. It's honestly, it's usually one way or the other. Because of the market that we've been in for over a decade, everybody's really happy with their stock accounts. They are because we've been on a bull run. But then there's the opposite extreme too, to where you see people who have everything in CDs or low yield money market accounts. So it seems like there's two schools of thought. There's either no risk hardly at all, which is very bad too. That's not safe either, really, when you look at taxes and inflation and all those things. Then you got some people who think that the market's not going to correct. It's always going to keep going up. And that's not realistic either.
Are you having the conversations? Are you kind of mentally preparing for a potential correction? Because you hear that a lot. The market has been up, peaks and valleys. But overall, like you just said, we've been in a bull market. Are you slowly preparing for the what if? You don't have that crystal ball, but what could happen? Could there be a correction on the horizon?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've seen a lot of up and down lately, which it's fundamental, right? The market is reacting to fear, the news, but we are due for a technical correction as well. So yeah, you have to be prepared for that because the chances of a retiree's 30-year duration of a retirement not having any market corrections is like slim.
Yeah.
Very, very slim.
So if we're a little nervous about the risk we have in our portfolio, maybe we're starting to think about just that. Boy, the market's going to correct eventually. Am I prepared for that? Amy, how do we reach out to you and the team at Gold Shield Wealth?
Well, you pick up the phone and you give me a call at 843-585-5223, and I would love to help you.
Talk to me about that initial consultation. We mentioned it a couple of minutes ago, the full body scan of your retirement portfolio. The first conversation, when I come in and I sit down with you, I'm a little nervous, I'm a little anxious. What can I expect?
Well, one of the first things that I ask is what brought you in today? Because everybody has something that is usually bothering them, something that they feel can be better. But what I like to do is just spend time getting to know who you are as a human being. What are your goals? What are we trying to accomplish? Are we trying to create a legacy? Are we trying to be selfish? Are we trying to leave $10 behind? What are we trying to do? But in order for me to even give any type of opinion, I have to see where everything's sitting. So I always say, let's gather up the puzzle pieces that you've scattered all over the place for the last 30, 40 years. We have to gather them all up And kind of like if you're working a puzzle, I'm a puzzle nerd. I love to work, 1,000-piece puzzles. And when you think of a puzzle, where do you start? You start with the four corners usually, right? You got your edges, and then you find the outside, and then you start creating the actual picture that it becomes. So that's what we have to do, is gather up the puzzle pieces, start organizing them, and then place them to where they make a picture of something that you want your retirement to be, something you'll be proud of, a legacy to leave your family, memories, whatever that may be.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Gold Shield Wealth Financial. Gold Shield Wealth is an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, IPW, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Gold Shield Wealth Financial are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Gold Shield Wealth Financial and IPW are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Gold Shield Wealth is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Gold Shield Wealth. This radio show is a paid placement. Any and all services related to Medicare are an outside business activity and are not offered through or supervised by Impact Partnership Wealth, IPW, LLC. Gold Shield Wealth has a strategic partnership with tax professionals and attorneys who can provide tax and or legal advice.